Christian men, Christian walk, Christian talk with your hosts, Tony Briscoe and Gary Dotson. We discuss faith, marriage, family, parenting, politics, and mental health, world news, and most of all, faith again. Let's go. Welcome to Message Monday. Hey, happy Monday, beautiful people. Hope you all are doing, or as Bernie Mac would say, America, what's going on? Man, what's up, Gary Dotson?
What's going on, man? Typical Monday, lot going on, but I'm glad to be here. How you doing?
Oh man, you see all this Samson going on, bro? Like, dude, this is crazy, bro. You know, my daughter earlier was like, "Well, why some curly and some straight?" I said, "That's because I had it all bundled up." So,
Yeah.
I'm good, man. I have no complaints, man. A lot on my mind, a lot on my heart.
Yeah.
And just thoughts. You know, nothing is bad or nothing that's pressing or anything like that at all, man. Just pretty much just thoughts and kicking off the last week in October, man.
Already.
Bruh. Already. So I've tackled some goals this year. There's some things I didn't achieve that were on my goal list, but I still went for them. And so I look back at just tangibility and yeah, man. So just here to get into a conversation tonight, man. Got a few things I definitely want to talk about. I want to close out, and I know we always never get to the closeout subject till the last 2 minutes, but I want to talk about the importance of teachers, man. The importance of teachers, and I've got an article from Chalkbeat that they released September of 2022 that just gave some reasons why teachers said they left the profession. So definitely want to talk about that and get into a little bit of that, man. So Father, we thank you for bringing us here on tonight. We do want to pray, Lord, for loved ones who have been lost, to the Pratt family and Sister Pratt, who lost her husband on Saturday suddenly, to their daughter Aaliyah, that you will be with them and comfort them in their time of mourning, Lord. The family of our dearly departed brother Don Rose, whose memory surfaced today with Brother Dotson, that you will cover his family, cover his wife as well, as they continue to grapple with loss, especially during this upcoming holiday season, Lord. For those who celebrate and really get into this holiday season, for the Christians, the Christmas and Advent, Lord, I just pray you will be with all of those who are still wrestling with the death of loved ones, that you will give them comfort and peace in their hearts, and that they will get the right grief counseling that they need in order to move forward, not away, but forward in their lives, Lord. So strengthen and bless us on this night. In Yeshua's name, amen.
Amen.
Yeah, man. Brother Don Rose, man, that was something. I mean, it's, we paused for a minute. We were talking about goals and things like that a little bit ago. And that was something that Brother Rose always wanted to do. He always wanted to open up his own barbecue loved to cook. He considered himself a chef, master chef.
Yes, sir.
I remember, I think he made some links or something one time. Yes, it was pork, y'all. Don't tell nobody I said it. There it is. And I was like, Don, they were good, man. They were good. Put a little more spice on them, brother, but they were good. So always happy to hear that, man. I make no, he had a goal.
Yeah.
And he never reached that goal in his life. But you couldn't tell him that it wasn't going to happen.
That's right.
And I think that's a big part of purpose, right?
And if you're going to achieve any goal, you just have to have a made up mind. I'm going after it, no matter what come what may.
Yep. No matter what come what may. And I believe that, we all have struggles in this world in terms of purpose, in terms of mapping out our vision. Brother Lionel Harris on Sunday mornings. I catch him probably the first 45 minutes of his show because the last hour I'm in Sunday school teaching.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that he's been spending a lot of time talking about vision, and really trying to get young people on board, older people like us. If we don't have something in place, sometimes it's a little bit more work for us to get things in place.
Yeah.
But, my wife always reminds me who our supplier is. And it doesn't mean we don't do, it doesn't mean we don't plan, it doesn't mean we don't execute, but she always reminds me who our supplier is, and that is Jah for us.
You can't ever forget that, man.
Yeah, can never forget that, man. So, grateful for that, man. And we'll see if Eddie and Tina are going to join in on tonight. I'm not used to seeing Zero up there, but it's all good. We're going to keep this bad fella moving.
That's right.
So I mean, there's still things going down. I was reminded today of two major incidents that really changed how the military engages in overseas battles. I'm not sure if you remember a Marine barrack, Khobar Towers.
I do not.
Saudi Arabia.
Before or after 9/11?
This is like 91, bro.
Okay.
It's like 91. Khobar Towers, man. I mean, when you talk about a heinous act committed against United States military, Khobar Towers is one of those. I think they said the explosion packed almost 5,000 pounds of explosives.
I think I remember that vaguely, but give us a little more detail.
Do you remember how the Oklahoma City building looked after the bombing?
Yes, sir.
So imagine Khobar Towers with its entire facade ripped off. I think over 400 military people killed, thousands injured.
That was such a weird time because in 93 the World Trade Center was bombed. A lot of people forget that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had the USS Cole. You had the attack on the USS Cole.
I was going to bring that up. And so what happens, at least based on the information that I have with these two incidents, particularly, Gary,
mm-hmm.
They saw the truck coming. But our soldiers were told not to engage.
Right. It was a truck that was speeding toward the base, right?
Yes.
And I think that's what led to certain security measures being put in place in foreign bases where vehicles approaching would have to kind of zigzag through. They would never be able to, right?
Yeah, to come straight through. But because they couldn't engage, because firing first can spark an international incident.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing happened with the USS Cole in Yemen. Right? They see this boat coming. They're telling, like, we cannot engage, because you can spark an international incident. And then what happens? And so when I was in Great Lakes after 9/11, when I got called up, I actually got to work with the command master chief, who was a hospital corpsman, who was on the Cole.
Wow.
Who had to make decisions on who lived and who died. It was the most harrowing tale of a man who works with the core team of medical professionals. And they had to leave those who were just, you're not going to make it. I got to go.
That's tough, man.
Bodies lined up, on a ship. And I mean, we could have put a phalanx lock on that thing, like anything could have taken that thing out, And I think that changed the rules of engagement when the USS Cole happened.
Wow.
And it's all an awful loss of life, right? Right now, I'm thinking about what's going on in our country. And that's not to set aside what's going on in the world.
Sure. But this is where we live.
It's where we live. President Trump said America first. Now, whether it was showman or not, we can debate that till we blue in the face. Of course, I just believe people don't like when I say it, but the dude's a marketing genius. When you can steal the White House like he did, you know how to market yourself, right? You had the help of Cambridge Analytics. You had the help of Facebook to pull all those things off. He markets.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to take the statement he said when he said America first. Which
in theory, in principle, I agree with, by the way.
In principle, we both agree with it. We already know this cat, so we ain't be talking anything about him. We are getting ready to fund $105 billion in foreign aid. $105 billion in foreign aid. Now, that number may have shifted and dropped just a little.
But when you start talking about billions, man, it doesn't matter.
In foreign aid. We don't want loan forgiveness. We don't want free college. And when I say me, I'm meaning government.
Right.
We don't want reparations.
We don't want vets off the street.
We don't want vets off the streets.
Homeless off the street.
We don't want we do want homeless off the street, but it's only those who are now coming in caravans. I think they said another 1,800, like 4 busloads showed up in Chicago today on the news today.
I think the count, well, I'll be safe. I don't know the exact number, but the count is over 10,000. What I heard on the news, it's beyond that.
I thought I heard close to 18,000, 19,000.
That's what I think. That's what I thought I heard.
Approximately 3,400 outside of our police stations.
I thought I heard 18,000. And you know what? When you mentioned that, I was in Auburn Gresham yesterday after church. Went to my parents' house, as is my usual custom. And I drive straight west on 63rd. And the police station, the Inglewood police station, is on 63rd and whatever that is. And my sister.
Hey, Miss Tina. Hey.
I'll wrap this up. But driving down 63rd, driving past that police station, and seeing the tents, seeing this mass of humanity out in front of the police station, when you see it for the first time, because we don't live in the city.
Yeah.
When you see it for the first time, I was absolutely taken aback. Absolutely taken aback.
Yeah. And so when I think about $105 billion in foreign aid between Ukraine, between Israel, and between Gaza, when I think about $105 billion in foreign aid, and we talk about the people who live here, right? So on Tina's show earlier, she had a barber on, and he was talking about how people don't want to work. Some people, not he didn't say all people.
Some people, yeah.
And I agree. There are people who just lazy, right? Or there are people who, for whatever reason, they made more money on unemployment than they were making during the pandemic than they did with their employer.
And that's a real thing.
And that's a real thing, because people put pressure on them for not going back to work. And it's like, why would I go back to work when I make more money?
Economically, it's not worth it, right?
Economically, it's not worth it for me to do it when we start talking numbers. But I think about the amount of money we're giving out in foreign aid. And people are like, oh, well, why are you always looking out for a handout? And they love to say that about Black people, right? Why are you always looking for a handout? It's not looking for a handout. It's just to say we have veterans who can't even get benefits unless they say they're crazy and get put on medication just to get the money. That's real talk. I know because I talked to a guy who served during Kosovo who came back with no hair because of the depleted uranium bullets they were using as for armor piercing. The same bullets the administration has over there now, by the way. I just want to make that known.
And did you know that the same depleted uranium bullets, they were used in Iraq? And did you know that out of all developed countries in the world, guess what country has the highest infant mortality rate and infant birth defects rate? It's Iraq.
Have to be Iraq. And to double back on that, when soldiers and troops came home, whether you were a woman who was pregnant or a male who got your wife pregnant, spinal bifida was up on the rise during those pregnancies. Spines were out of alignment, right? We're talking like deformities in babies based on chemical agents in the field, radioactive material in the field being used for war. But we put veterans through HE double hockey sticks just to get the basics of their benefits. And it's absolutely asinine.
And we wonder why recruitment levels are at historic lows. We're not talking about low.
Yeah.
We're talking about historic lows. We're talking about, I don't know if you heard, they're talking about entire divisions in various branches that they have to shut down because they don't have the personnel to run them.
I believe it.
They got tech and machines and things that need to be manned. They have to shut them down because they don't have the manpower. They don't have the manpower to man them.
And
I believe
it's crazy right now.
They're saying that, people just don't want to work. Given what you just said, do you think that that's the general reason why? Or do you see that as conditioned thinking?
Oh, now you guys, here you go. We was trying to be cool, and you going deep on us already, Sister Tina. My goodness. So I think conditioned thinking has a lot to do with it, but I don't want to deal with that like just yet. I just want to say that again, if America first is the premise,
yeah.
$105 billion in foreign aid this administration is asking for, when you don't want to forgive student loans, universal health care plans, which, by the way, the Republican Party, who's been against the Affordable Health Care Act done under the Obama administration, has not presented one piece of strong legislation in almost 12 years. I want to make that known. I'm not giving Democrats a pass on nothing, but we got to call this thing like we see it. They have not presented one piece of freaking legislation for universal health care in this country. So outside of just back talking.
So what made you feel like that America first? Where did you get that from? Was that conditioned thinking again?
Well, no, America first, I wouldn't say it was necessarily conditioned thinking. I did start off talking about that was a President Trump comment.
It became a really hot campaign slogan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but was it the fact? What were you seeing? You have to watch, being in Chicago, y'all know that. We got to watch everything.
Hey, Eddie, you got that super mic on again, man. I could tell.
Oh, my bad, man. I would have just muted myself.
You gotta lower the volume on it.
Man, that's a voice from heaven, Mike.
That mic is real, Eddie has, bro. It's real.
Yes, it is very loud. But it's like, if we're constantly understanding that it's not manifesting what people are saying, you have to put it in one or two categories. And that's why on one of my shows, I said that we learn, we're in the box. And as we continue to learn, our perception and desires and everything start to change our positioning. And then it's Picasso. Everybody's looking at the same thing, but it's coming across different. It's hitting different because we're in a different position now, but we only realize that in hindsight. So now it's in the box, Pablo Picasso. Let's call the whole thing hindsight. I don't know if that made sense.
No, it made sense. Everybody looking at these slogans and you got one swath of Americans. Oh yeah, all behind it, yeah. And you heard us, me and Tone, in theory, in principle,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
we agree with America first. But again, to use your example, to one swath of Americans, that means something completely different. For us, it means something different. For somebody else, it means something completely different. But by the
Yeah.
time it trickles down to us, our communities last. Yeah, America first, but our communities last. America first, but our schools last. America first, but what we need last.
Yeah.
So
That
yeah,
America first
we understand what
shows
you mean. Yeah.
that America first could mean, white people only,
Mm-hmm.
for a vast majority of individuals who are following Donald Trump, and the few African Americans who do that will soon find out that they will just be like, was it Omarosa, whatever her name was, who was in the
Omarosa.
president's tent? Yeah,
Omarosa, yeah.
Omarosa, yeah. For a little bit. Eddie Phillips, what's happening, man? My Navy brother.
What's going on?
Everything is good, man. Everything is good.
Can't hear you now.
I'm muted. I'm muted. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
there you are. There you are.
I'm good, man.
Good.
Tina got me echoing because she's downstairs, but I'm good. Good.
Wait a minute, she downstairs and that mic can still pick up. Boy, when I grow up, that's all I'm saying.
That mic, man.
She has the same mic, but she don't set it. She don't set. No, it's just the fact that sometimes people know what they're doing, and some people, they struggle.
Oh Lord, here we go. The water roses. Here it comes.
I'm just saying.
Hey, Eddie, real quick,
no,
man.
I'm good.
Real quick. So I looked up the line of succession for the president of the United States.
That's scary. That's scary by itself.
The second most powerful slot in that line of succession is not filled. Is that a problem for the country?
Yeah, that is a major problem for the country. But again, I think they're showing us something in their foolery, right? What they're showing us is that it's really not about the legislation; it's about the power. Right? They could care less about legislation. They could care less about making sure that people in this country can live, get the things that they deserve as American citizens. They don't care. This is and you see it in the media. You see even in their rhetoric. This is about power, and it has always been about power. Right? It's one of the reasons why George Washington, when Washington said that he was only going to do 2 terms and he was not going to do another, it set the precedent because people were like, wow, because a lot of people were afraid, we're going to have basically an American king. And one of the reasons why Washington did that was because he did not want to establish that. And that precedent stayed for 100 or over 100 years, because people wanted to make sure that this American experiment, as historians and people like to call it, showed that it was really about democracy and freedom, and it wasn't about the old imperialistic mentality and stuff like that. But deep in the root of this American system, there is still this desire for power. That is the reason why, right? We only need to look back to, I was thinking the other day, we don't need to look back to Reconstruction. During Reconstruction, we had Black senators, Black people coming in, free men who came in and actually took seats in Congress. And toward the fall of Reconstruction, they got them all out of there. So we understand that they understood that the power came by keeping certain people where they wanted them to be. I hate to say it, but the truth of the matter is, until we have a more diversified government on all parts of the government, we're going to have this problem, because they don't care that there's no speaker. They don't care that America's business is not being done. This is power, and they're showing it to the world, right? That's what they're hungry for.
Yeah, good points. Go ahead, Gary.
That's good. And with the George Washington example, historical example, let it not be not said that they offered George Washington a kingship.
Yeah.
And he refused. And he said, "Listen, don't you know what we just got done fighting?" And he refused. Right. He refused.
Yeah.
But you know what? I have a slightly different perspective. And your comment about until we have a more diversified government. And from my vantage point, I'm not saying you're wrong, but from my vantage point, I don't think a diversified government offers any type of solution. And here's why. And I think we all see eye to eye that politics, regardless of the country, but certainly in America, it's about power. It's about certain groups trying to maintain their slice of the power pie as long as they can. But Congress, president, cabinet officials, all of them, they're not doing the people's business like you said, because they're a completely different class of American. It's like it's them and it's us. And the black and the white and the gay and the straight and the male and the female, you can go all the demographics that you want. Those are the low-hanging fruits that they allow us to play with. But at the higher levels, it's about power. Joe Biden will never be affected by the things that you and I would be affected by. Congress people, they will never be affected by what we have to struggle with. And just from my perspective, it's about them being in an entirely different class where it's like feudalism. It's like a modern feudalism. They're a completely different class of people. Where the laws don't apply to them like they apply to us. White, black, male, female, gay, straight. When you're in that group, I agree, you get to do what you want.
Yeah, I think somebody said it years ago. If you want to fix Social Security, put the United States government in the plan. If you want to fix healthcare, put the politicians in the exact same plan
there you
that
go.
the American citizen is in, and we guarantee that you will, fix both. As fast as Dick Cheney was able to get a heart transplant, when we know people who have been on the heart list for years, he was like, "Yo, cough up that heart."
Come on, Tone. Anybody?
You can even shoot somebody with a shotgun and not even get charged or arrested for it.
There you go. Any group that can vote themselves a raise, that says it all, bro.
Yeah,
they can vote themselves raises.
And you always got the lone person who's like, "Well, I didn't vote against it because of the American people." Of course you wouldn't. When you got 49 other people voting for it, you can stand alone and still get the pay increase, right?
That's right.
Miss Tina, on your show, I have in here as well. Are some people too lazy to work? And is that mental conditioning? What say you?
Well, I think that's another one of the ways that we're taking the temperature, and we don't realize how this is happening. For example, um, the Bible is foretelling. It says, "My people will perish for a lack of knowledge." How do we get knowledge? Now, some of us wasn't paying attention a while ago when the schools, the learning process was taken out of our ability and put into a government structure. And why was that? Because that foretelling in the Bible will come to fruition. And even though we don't know how that's going to come about, we do know that it will. So it's up to us to try to make sure it don't get us all. And one of the methods of the reason why is because it's that conditioning. Where do you think that conditioning coming from? So what happens is we send out a signal, like when the ark was out there, he sent out a bird to see if the bird would come back, and the bird kept coming back. It was that callback. It's the same thing perpetuated because there's nothing new under the sun, but we just not watching it and seeing what we need to understand. So it'll hit us different, though it's the same message. So when people tell me, "Oh, you see things so different," that's not the way it's being taught. I don't care about the way it's being taught. This is the message that we have to understand and learn from. So when we say, "Oh, people are lazy, they don't want to work," we saw that when they first gave us welfare. And a lot of people had to be clever. The black woman had to be extremely clever because she want to keep her man because she need help with them kids. But at the same time, she had to keep that welfare because he can't carry it alone and she can't do enough to help him. So we have to be clever. Like you said, they being clever. We mad at them for being clever because they gonna vote themselves a raise. They gonna change the laws according to what they want, and we're gonna support them. But why are we not supporting ourselves and saying, hey, we don't understand? Because we go to work. Y'all go to work every day, guys. You know, and you work that same job loyally and faithfully, and you don't understand how you were telling the upper echelon that they can do exactly what they're doing to you, and you'll just take it. Because you see, some people who work in your same position, but not your culture, they getting raises, incremental raises, and they're not saying anything about it. You're not, because you're not saying anything and you don't understand how what you're doing and what you're saying is that signal back to them. They're signaling to you and you're signaling back to them. You don't understand the message that you're sending. So when we say things like, oh, people are too lazy to work because the money too easy to get, that's not altogether true, because it's too easy for other coaches to get, but they out there working. It is something else. It is a mentality. It is a conditioned mentality that we are pushing back out there that is a altogether lie. People would prefer to work. They would prefer to be busy in culture, any culture. You can get somebody off the street that don't want to work, quote unquote, put them in a position that they like and they enjoy and they're comfortable and feel safe, and they're making a little bit of money. It may not be as much as, you know, somebody else would have, but they're making some money, but they like it. They enjoy it. They're happy. So they work. So what happened to the whole they don't want to work? That wasn't true. A lot of people, and what I said in my show with the kings and queens in Pond's clothing, these are experts, people who are able to do, but they don't, because they like, forget that BS. I'm not going through that hell every day. I'm not coming to the job every day for me to train somebody to do my job so they can get a raise and I get nothing. So they can say, covet my work as their own, and they move on and I stay here. I have a family too. I have needs too. I have wants and dreams, but those are the people that they're classifying as don't want to work. And it's not true.
Got it. Eddie, I want to read something. I'm going to quote this. Booker T. Washington. Quote, "It has been necessary for the Negro to learn the difference between being worked and working. To learn that being worked meant degradation, while working means civilization. That all forms of labor are honorable and all forms of idleness disgraceful. It has been necessary for him to learn that all races that have got upon their feet have done so largely by laying an economic foundation and in general by beginning a proper civilization and ownership of the soil." I want to read this last part. "For 250 years, I believe the way for redemption of the Negro was prepared through industrial development. Through all those years of the Southern white man did business with the Negro in a way no one else has done business with him. In most cases, if a Southern white man wanted a house built, he consulted a Negro mechanic about the plan and about the actual building of the structure. If he wanted a suit of clothes made, he went to a Negro tailor. For the shoes, he went to the shoemaker of the same race. In a certain way, every slave plantation in the South was an industrial school. On these plantations, young colored men and women were constantly being trained not as farmers, but as carpenters, blacksmiths, wheelwrights, brick masons, engineers, cooks, laundresses, sewing women, and housekeepers." End quote.
So, can you? Well, let me make sure. Let me make not muted. So,
and please keep it in context to the time frame that Booker T was writing this, please, and transition us into where we are now.
So let me tell you, Booker T. Washington is a difficult thing, because on one part I understand what Booker was saying, and I understand his mentality of his time. You know, there's people who were killed, lynched, murdered, and I understand. I want to get my people to have a purpose, a value. He saw that they have a value coming out of, well, to many people, they didn't have a perceived value of life. So I understood his philosophy on that. I also understood Du Bois's philosophy on that, right? And making sure that we had intellectual standing too, because the intellectual, the academic, the guy who's implementing all of these workers, he's the one at the top that's going to make a lot of money. He's going to use all of those workers, and he's going to be smart enough to move the pieces around the chessboard. But I will say this. I have a book. I was just, while Tina was talking, I was looking at this book. I have a book here that a friend of mine sent me. It's African and African King of the Atlantic World, 1400 to 1800. And the idea of
Eddie,
how
you broke up a little bit. Say the name. Say the name of that book again.
The name of this book is Africa and Africans in the Making of the Atlantic World. It's the second edition of this book. It's by John Thornton. It's a really good book. You can get it on Amazon or whatever. But we have to understand as we get to this idea of work, when you are a people who have been worked, right, and put out there basically as a beast, let's just be honest, and you have been worked, it's very hard to get that mentality out of your head that the only way I'm gonna have value or be worth anything to a society or to a people is I got to work, right? If you go at, there's another book, the title escapes me right now, talking about how Black women had 24 to 30 babies, right? And the reason why they had these babies for the slave owner was because it gave them value, right? They would die. Many of them would die trying to have these babies, but it gave them value, special treatment. They allowed them to have a better place to live, better food, better quality of life. And so when we look at our world right now, and I understand what Booker was saying at the time, and that's why he's so divisive, because he felt that if we go out here and we still have this mentality, some of us, right, that we have to work by all means necessary. We got to hustle. We got to do whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. But as you become a worker, say you become a plumber or you become an electrician, you learn that trade. Right? But you will notice that some people don't stay just in the trade game. They try to get their own business. They try to grow beyond just being the guy that's working. They try to mentor, grow other people to bring them up to that level. And so I think we have to really understand that that's a two-part system here. And I think a lot of times African Americans haven't done that. We haven't really, and I say us specifically, because when Booker got up and talked about with the Atlanta Compromise, right, basically stood up there and told the white people, told the Black people that were standing there, that in order for us to have value, right, we got to let ourselves be mistreated as people as long as we're working. And then one day we'll be smart enough to be a part of the white establishment. And if you can read that Atlanta Compromise speech, you understand that this was a man who still was struggling with a concept of a slave mind. I hate to say it, but that's just the truth. And he was fighting that to the day he died. Remember, you're talking about the same Booker T. Washington that got beat down toward the end of his life. I think it was in Washington State, got beat down because he happened to be walking behind a white woman. They beat him almost to death. Some say that is one of the reasons why he eventually died like a year or two after that, because of the physical toll that took on his body. But you know what he did? He told out in the press, said, I understand why they beat me. Right? So this slave mind, when we read these speeches and we read, I like you said that earlier, let's put into context where their minds were. Right? And let's understand that, because I say I tell this all the time, I'm on my hustle, I'm on my hustle, I'm on my hustle. Yeah, but you can't hustle for your whole life, my brother. You got to be able to leave something. The difference between us and other cultures is that generational wealth issue. We do not grow generational wealth. We feel like we live our entire life, hustle, 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 until we die, right? And leave nothing for our progeny.
I'm a fine example of the statement that you just made, and I'm just starting to slow down in some regard. By the way, folks, this is our last show for the year because we're slowing down. So I'm glad Eddie did, he brought that up and he did mention that. And I think context is crucial. And that's why I wanted to read that and really have you on tonight so you could just give an understanding of that mentality. And when Tina, who is bringing up a lot of her professional psychological training here in the industrial world, I think it's really, really clear that, and I think I've always attributed that, what I just read, to W.E.B. Du Bois erroneously. It's Booker T, who I was actually quoting from a while ago. But he talked about, in general, the work of slavery was good, but the way it was forced on us was horrific. And
Tony, let me say something. Let me say something to you, though. Mm-hmm. So you guys made a comment earlier. You all said it in addressing the idea of people too lazy to work. We got to keep in mind, I think I said this on Tina's show, I typed it in the comments, that the United States did not impose any kind of income tax or anything until during the Civil War, until around the 1890s, because they didn't have to. They had free labor, right? They had people who would work from cradle to grave.
Yes.
And so when you got around 1913, when they actually instituted a federal income tax, think about what was going on at that time. Also think about what happened in the years before and the years after with the lynchings, murders, and killings of blacks. Because now people who had worked the field and whatever, grandma and granddad had a lot of money. They never were taxed for this. Now we tax. Why are we being taxed? Oh, because these black folks is free now, right? And there was a lot of anger to their part of that. The other thing is, too, the only reason why we have a welfare system, a Social Security Act, a welfare system, however you want to look at different parts of it, the age of the families, whatever. The only reason we have that is because FDR during the come on now, y'all can help me, because depression would not come out of my mouth, but during depression, the year was in my head, right? In 1935, he decided, hey, let's kick this in, because why? White people were killing blacks, killing sales, jumping off bridges, murdering each other. The country was about to implode. And so he said, hey, we got to go in these coffers and got to help these people. But it wasn't your people, right? It wasn't our people. And even after World War II, right, when Mayor Theodore LaGuardia in New York and different people all over the country, they redlined and cut black folks and people of color out of places. This was money. This was life. They basically paid for cars and property in the suburbs. When you look at that Ozzie and Harriet, right? Go look at them TV shows and Ozzie's walking in and Harriet, they're all happy. Black folks was living in the city. Yeah. Black folks living in the city in the ghetto. Like the Jewish people did during World War II. They living in the middle of the city in the ghetto with no car. And if they did have property, they put them in a bad property where they could not have any foundational wealth. And they could not have any generational wealth. So when we say people was too lazy to work, that book that I just talked to you about, Africans built the trade, right? We are the trade of Atlantic. And before that, we built the trade in Africa. So we're not lazy, and we have never been a lazy people. But when you talk about welfare, who's the first person that they idolize, that they symbolize? Blacks, people of color. This is on purpose, but it was never designed for us.
Yeah. Property.
So I just wanted to make that point.
It's a good point. It's an outstanding point. Man, it's already 8:49. Lord have mercy,
crazy,
time.
Man.
No, man. Time goes, bro.
All right, we got a question of the
when you're having fun.
We got a question of the week. Miss Tina, I want to kick it off with you. Then we'll go to Brother Dotson. Question of the week from my brother. I was with him Saturday celebrating his cohort's Peace Fellowship. My man Antoine. He is a visual artist. He's a photographer. He's a documentarian. The question of the week comes from him. How much time have you invested in learning about your faith? So just in general, if you're comfortable answering that question, Ms. Phillips, kick us off, please.
Well, that's a controversial question because it's like when you admit it and you grew up in the church, when you grew up in the Kojic church, they don't want you to, do anything other than maybe the King James version of the Bible. So it's like if you've done anything like that, they say things like, "Oh well, all that learning you getting, all that education you outgrowing your britches and stuff like that." Or are you a traitor? Now you not a Christian anymore, and all that sort of thing. But I've spent a great deal of my time, and that's why when I make moves, I don't say anything. And the people that I help, like Superintendent Lawrence Jones, he didn't say anything about the help that I provided because he knew, that's controversial, for even for a woman to be helping a man, or outside of your position, and it's so controversial. Everything's controversial. So how much time have I dedicated to it? All my life. I've
Mhm.
studied, outside of, the Kojic, education all my life. And it wasn't necessarily because I put myself in that position, more so than I prayed and asked God, and God put that into my life, where I went to school with different people and we conversated. I have atheist friends, I have Muslim friends, I have Russian friends, I have, different culture friends, and they tell me about their faith, and that's how I learn. And they offer, the books that they're learning from. So I guess, school kind of introduced that for me, and neighbors and stuff like that, just getting into the conversation. So it's a large part of my life, and it's a large part of the conversations in passing.
All right. Thank you, Brother Dotson.
That's a complicated question, but for me, learning about my faith, our faith, the faith, when you really look at that on a fundamental level, I really haven't undertaken that outside of the last, say, decade or so. And I want to be clear about something. That doesn't mean that um, I was foreign to Christianity or foreign to the things of the word. I've always kind of been in the word, but that question, when you really learn about your faith, when you learn the why you believe what you believe, when you really investigate history, when you really investigate why this says this in the scriptures, why Sister Tina, she mentioned the King James version of the Bible. Well, why do we use the King? And you laughing because of our conversation yesterday. But why do we use the King James version? Why do they
Yes.
use that version? So I really kind of been in an accelerated to finish this in an accelerated kind of private course learning about how to unpack the things, how to unpack the why I believe what I believe. And, like when the Lord Jesus was born to Mary and he began to grow, the scriptures say, and Mary pondered all these things in her heart. A lot of things I keep to myself because I'm trying to mull it over, trying to come to grips and trying to make sense of some things. So that's my answer to your question.
Okay. I think for me, and because I know Antoine, I think a lot of the premise of his question comes from a place of, do people even study as Christians the sacred text?
Mhm.
I think that's the quickest way to get it out, right? Because you have people who have been in church for decades, decades,
Yeah.
and they only listen to what the person speaking is saying and never anything else. I got a friend. I got a friend. She's Catholic. She used to be Catholic, and she was just like, "Oh, I don't read the Bible. That's what the priest is for." And so this. She was serious though, like for real. She was like, "Read the Bible." She was like, "No, that's what the
Right.
priest is for." But I think that kind of accountability is what his question derives from, right? And so, at our church has a systematic ministry process for those who say that they're called to the ministry. And
Yeah.
we've had some people who stuck with it, and we've had some people who was like, you know, let me be clear, I'm called to lay ministry, so I'm not trying to do
Right.
I'm not trying to do all this. I'm
And that's
called,
okay.
and it's completely fine, right? And so, you know, for me, it has been particularly the last 3 years, just starting to get back to that kind of foundational knowledge again, because you forget certain things over time. If you don't
True.
practice it, you know, you can live the life, but not, you can lose some
Right.
clarity on
Right.
things after a while, you know. And so, you know, I'm in a how to study the Bible class, facilitating as an administrator. Gary's teaching that how to study the Bible class. The majority of our students, and Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe if we had to do an age, Eddie, the baseline age of our students, I believe it would almost start between 57 and 62. They are loving what they're learning. Some of them are already learned and they just wanted a refresher, but some of them are very new to this process and they're loving it and they're enjoying it. And I think what we see week to week is a commitment and a zeal to take their own personal Bible study to a whole nother level on how to interpret properly, how to keep things in context.
Yes.
Without having to link in 19 other scriptures to prove a point when it's kind of clearly spoken right there, you know, whatever text you're in. And so I think for me, it's always the learning journey. And because I'm a Sunday school teacher, it makes it, honestly makes it harder because there are times I have to prepare 3 different lessons on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Because I've got kids who are in my Sunday school class who also come into my teaching room. And so I've got to have a different lesson for Sunday school. I've got to have a different lesson for children's church. And then if I'm teaching the whole Sunday for second service, well, I got kids who stay first service and second service. So I can't teach the same way even that third time around, you know. So but I think the premise is, and this is what I, you know, encourage my daughter to know, it's not enough for you to say you're a Christian without having a foundational understanding of what you believe as a Christian. And when you go off to college, these professors will embarrass you intentionally. Because let's be real, that there are atheists there who want to disprove everything about the scriptures. You know, I saw a post from somebody today that was against every religion. You know, Africans, we've had history long before the Bible or the Quran was ever created, long before Buddhism, and we need to let go of all that fake religion and that false stuff. And I'm just like, people just post all kind of crazy, but for them to be able to, I'm not even talking about, I'm not even getting to a level of defending the faith. Eddie, I want you to chime. I'm not talking about defending the faith. I'm just talking about being assured in what you know from what you study and what you believe. And for the Christian, with the help of the Holy Spirit, because we can't do anything without him. Eddie, go for it.
You know, I remember when I hesitantly decided that I was going to start teaching history, and one of the things that one of my instances was that I was like, God, don't these people know this? People are older than me, right? Don't they know where they've been? Don't they know who they are? And it was a false assumption. And God dealt with me and said, Eddie, no. What makes you think that anybody taught them anything? And if they did teach them, what makes you think that it wasn't biased or conditional or anything? Yes. And as I started to talk to older people, I started to realize how much they didn't know. Yeah. And it shook me. It shook me. The thing was, when I would have discussions with them, they started to show me that they wanted to know, but nobody had ever taught them. Yeah. They had gone through high school, through school. History was just a class in a room, and most of them don't remember anything from it. When we talk about faith, you know, and how you studying your faith, it's my belief, and it's Eddie, I believe that God left us, the man like to say it's his story. God gave us history, right? Everything in this world was made by God. So rather man tries to corrupt it, rather he tries to revision it, it is still there. And the Bible in many places tells you that things that God put in place stand to this day, and they will stand, right?
That's facts.
So that stuff is there for you to be able to trace it, for you to be able to know it. And so when I think about my faith every day, when I read about history, every day when I look at the world, I don't think you can understand Christianity without understanding Islam, Buddhism, Sikhism. I don't think you can, Taoism, and understand why did societies go into these beliefs, right? What propelled them to think this way? When the children of Israel left out of Egypt, right, and Moses went up on the mountain, they lost faith, right? And what did they do? They started worshiping an idol, right?
They went back to what they knew.
What they knew, back to what they had learned, what they had saw, right? So we have to understand that your faith, this is why I stress history. I know people go, Eddie, you always stress it. I stress history so much because there's so much we don't know.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, I was with Pastor Razor when I was able to be in Chicago, and we sat down and we did that program about the Bible. And we're talking about migrations. And I was telling them, I said, the world will tell you, this is how we think now. We all been taught this. The world will tell you that man came out of Africa as a beast, Neanderthal, Australopithecus, whatever it is. But what the Bible tells you is man came out of there. It talks about Nimrod. There's a reason why the Bible lists this whole timeline of people.
That's facts.
One, I think God did it because he wanted you to be able to go back as a historian, as people who should know history, say, hey, did these people exist? Not the animal, not the beast, but see, science and history will throw that stuff out there to tell you they were already here. That is not what the Bible tells you. And then when you go and you research the Bible and then you research the history, you go, wow, this really does align. So why did they tell me this? Right? This is what it means about studying your faith, studying who you are. So when you go to these college classes, like you said, Tony, with your daughter, and they say something to you, right? You can stand up there probably and say, okay, no, because I'm going to tell you right now from talking to professors, and Tina will tell you, I will challenge a professor, right? If you go talk to a professor and he says, no, that's not, well, sir, can you show me where your evidence is? Because I'm about to show you mine, right? That's how you have to approach it. And that's logic of doing it. If we're going to say we're Christians and we're going to exude that faith, we have to be knowledgeable and studied in what we're doing. The Bible tells you to do such.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, folks. Well, it is 9 o'clock.
It's crazy.
If you can stick around for a little bit, I do want to get to our topic of the evening, which I never get to. I really want to talk about teachers and their importance, because there's an article on chalkbeat.com, chalkbeat.org, excuse me. They wrote it in September of 2022, and teachers were given reasons why they're leaving, why they left education. Here's a teacher from Illinois, Chicago. And I'm going to share a varying range of thought here. Administration and colleagues have actively exhibited transphobic and homophobic rhetoric, including the removal of queer literature for kids, outing trans students, dead naming, and refusal to use affirmed pronouns. School staff asking transgender students if they are sure and insisting that the parents have a right to know their child's preferred pronouns despite being against district policy. When students use homophobic or racist language and have no consequences unless specific affirming educators intervene. No administrative support, lack of support, with the exception of specific staff who are overworked, burned out, tired of fighting. I plan to return to study couples and family therapy. They left teaching after 3 years. Another one from Denver, Colorado, taught for 13 years. In New Jersey, 5 in Colorado. Mostly, I left the classroom because I felt an urgency to help students make up 1 or more years of overall growth during the pandemic. I'm assuming that she's talking about. I was not supported in that mission. The school I taught at was more concerned with students' social, emotional learning. which is critical work right now. That said, I strongly believe that I am not qualified for that. I don't have the skills to successfully teach SEL to children, and I wasn't trained in the SEL curriculum at all. I have over a decade of teaching experience and professional learning around reading, early literacy, and math, but not nearly enough to act as a social worker or counselor for children. I'm going to pause my reading, because when we talk about teacher pay, and there are teachers who make very good money. So I know this. I got friends who are teachers who've been teaching over 22 years who make over $100,000 a year in Chicago schools. And I got some other friends who've been teaching for that long and don't make that kind of money.
Yes, sir.
But I think the pandemic really opened up some opportunities. When I talk to teachers, they believe the opportunity was missed. They left because they thought that during the pandemic, it was a good time to reevaluate how we teach children. And then when they came back, we tried to put them right back into the space that they were in before that. With that, we've seen an uptick of aggression against teachers. We've seen a lot of mental health issues. There was a teacher who just returned to work. I saw the video of her getting knocked out by a student throwing a metal chair, hitting her in the head and knocking her out. So teachers have complained more about the aggression of students. Why are our teachers and teaching so important? And then how can they navigate the spaces in this generation? Gary, I want to start with you mainly because I'm on the front line with you every day, but you're on a different front line as an educator and as an instructor. Talk to us.
As a preface, I've been teaching 26 years. And sometimes I amaze myself. I'm amazed at how God has let me just hang in there. But I want to say this: education in many ways is a product of the culture in which it's done in. And I've taught our people for the duration of my career, and I find great reward in it. But I've seen over the years as families have degraded, broken down, eroded certain things that we may have been brought up with, certain things that our generation may have been instilled with. Those things are no longer stressed, they're not emphasized. And as a result, the students that come through the schoolhouse doors, they are the children of the respective homes that they come from. So this thing of violence in schools, and I've seen my share of it, the occurrences of disrespect against teachers and authority and school staff, this is a product of the culture in which education is done in. And educators are important less for teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic, and more for showing the example of there's another option. You don't have to go the way that it is on the street on your way here, or the way it is in your own house. There's another option. And you and I, we think alike. We're salt and light, man. This is rubber meets the road. We're salt and light.
Yeah.
And lastly, public education is one of the most godless, humanist, atheistic sectors in this country. And if we're not in it fighting for the souls and minds of these children, it's only going to get worse and worse and worse. So I'm off the soapbox.
Got you. Eddie, what say you, sir?
I was sitting here just before Dr. Dawson was talking. I was sitting there thinking, every year, I encourage my sons to this. I pick up W.E.B. Du Bois' The Souls of Black Folks. I read it every year. It's just something I've been doing since I was about 15 years old. And There's a part in the book where Du Bois talks about going to go teach um, sharecroppers, farmers, um, and going out there almost like a missionary to teach these kids and these families, and how the families, he would stay with the families, and how, you know, evenings would be almost like another teaching session where you would sit there and you would teach the adults. Um, and I started to, you know, every time I read that, it shows me the dedication of teaching and why it is so important and kind of where we've fallen. I do believe, you know, me and Tina go back and forth on this a lot. We talk about this very often, as a part of the homeschool and the brick and mortar school. But I believe that if people are going to allow their kids to go to school, nothing ever um, takes away from you teaching in your home. Nothing ever takes away from you going and trying to get, we have educators in our community, in our churches, in our social groups. And it's the idea, there are people who are gifted by God to be teachers. It's in them. And we push those people away, and we send our kids to schools, and we expect these teachers to raise our kids without any assistance, without any further guidance. And so when we take the time, like Du Bois said, to understand the value of it, he said he left and he came back years later and people still remembered. People had died, folks had moved on, but they remembered. I remember sitting here learning.
Yes, sir.
That's the first time in my life that I learned, that I was comfortable with learning. I didn't feel foolish. I didn't feel like an idiot. Somebody took the time with me. Somebody cared for me. And we try very hard on the programs that we do, and I see you guys do it here too, to get people to understand this is a different way to do it. You don't have to just send your kids to school, cut them off. We spend so much time letting people teach who we know, like he just said, in an ungodly situation. And we don't strengthen or shield or armor our kids to be able to have knowledge, to walk into that school with confidence. And that is why so many of our young men drop out. That's why so many of our young women feel like it doesn't matter if I get this education, because we have made education almost as if, like I tell my sons, don't read a book as a chore. If a book don't give you knowledge and make you happy in the knowledge that it give you, don't sit there and say, oh, he made me read. And you hear this in schools. I was forced to read this. I was made to do this. When something becomes a chore, you're really not committed to it. Yeah, but when it's something that you're getting from it,
yeah, absolutely,
you want to learn. So that's what I would say to that.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Miss Tina. Oh, can't hear you.
Oh, let me mute myself.
You guys make some really good points, and it takes me back to the original comment that I made about how the Bible said that our people will perish for a lack of knowledge, and the structure that we're feeding into when we forget about the fact of the matter, like Elder Dotson. Yeah, I found out.
You know, Eddie called him Dr. Dotson, so I don't know if he caught that, but I heard it.
I heard it.
The prophet has spoken.
But like Elder Dotson said over there, Elder Briscoe, yeah, I found out.
Touche.
So it's nothing wrong with that, guys. We don't know. But what it is that we have been taken away from what we were supposed to do, and we never returned to it. And the Bible does say we're going to return back to the days of old. We are supposed to be the example. It's great that you have your kids go out there and learn more and have diversity in their learning, but that does not exclude you being the example of what it is they need to see, what it is they need to learn, and how that is. when the reason why they sectioned the schools off the way they did was so that more people would feel like they could do it. So they said, "Oh, you don't have to know anything, but you just teach them how to read. You don't have to know anything, but just teach them to write. You don't have to know anything, but just do this." And that is a whole lie, and that's the problem that is keeping those teachers from saying, "Well, look, I'm not qualified. I can't do this," because you lied to them and said what their expectations were. That's not it. So now we have to recondition those people to say, yeah, you are exactly the person that needs to teach them, because you're honest with yourself first, so you could be honest with them and say, look, I didn't know either. I tried
Yeah.
my best too, and I couldn't do it. I tell everybody who I teach and who learns from me, I didn't know either. I had to learn too. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm still trying to figure things out. And because you're being honest, instead
Yeah.
of letting them see you as a genius, letting them see you as something that they may not ever be able to obtain, you're letting them see you're human. You're letting them see you as an example, and not in a way with homeschooling is the reason why I love it, is because we seeing everybody as people. We see
Hmm.
everybody as learners, even though they're not licensed to teach. We're seeing them as real people and examples that I can aspire to be you, if not just you, but learn from you, bits and pieces of you. In the brick and mortar schools, I think it's more conditioned that people say you become me, as
Yeah.
opposed to you become you and add on to this legacy to build the legacy, not to follow the legacy as structured as I had it in my day, because time is inevitably changing everything, and it's not going to work. It's not applicable as time changes. And
Right.
that's why a lot of people say, well, we learned from our elders and this is what we know, so we could kill them off, and we know everything. No, because now the time has changed, the weather has changed. We didn't have all this learning. We didn't know how to keep the crops growing and everything through all this hell type of what is it, apocalyptic weather that we're having. But they experienced it first, and they knew in order to make the
That's
changes
right.
that they wanted to see, they had to pray.
Yeah.
And like Will on my show today said, a lot of the people don't know where to start. They have no idea. So it's not about teaching in the formal sense that we have come to learn it now, with the
Right.
formal language that we have learned it now. It is the formal logic that is innate in us that we got to return back to.
I agree, and I think teachers, like, being a teacher is a calling. It is
That's
a calling.
facts.
It is a calling. I don't. There's no other word to associate with teaching outside of it being a calling. I long for the day a teacher can step into a classroom and all they have to do is educate.
Mm.
The emotional baggage.
Yeah.
See, my generation, I ran away from home senior year.
Mm,
Nobody ever knew,
mm,
because we were told, even when you don't like your family or not getting along with your family, you don't tell family business.
Hmm.
Nobody knew I was homeless outside of a few people. And those my homies who was bringing me clothes, soap, deodorant, underwear. It wasn't even an option to put that on the way to on a teacher to bring them into that world, right? The respect that teachers had, even if a teacher lied on you, you caught hands. That's how much
Hmm.
respect teachers had then. And I've seen a dwindling and drifting away from that. And I'm not a social emotional learning expert. I don't know about that stuff. I see it. I see it being implemented. And part of it, call it white supremacy that has influenced me. You can call it what you want. Like, I came up kind of rough, so I still got that old school mentality about me. Hey, when you in class, keep your mouth closed. Well, this
mm,
generation don't work like that. So you're gonna have to build something into your classroom that's gonna. You gotta let the hyperactivity, those who got hyperactivity, you gotta find a way to engage them.
That's
And I
facts.
thought about it. Why am I telling a kid to be quiet in school? because we've conditioned school like a prison. They got identification. They got mug shots. They got particular classes that they got to go into that some of them are actually treated like they're a cell as opposed to a classroom. If you don't have a budget, that teacher has to either go in her own pocket and decorate that classroom. All you're going to see is white walls or whatever color walls in the building that there are. Right? But our teachers don't just get to teach anymore. And I think that's what's causing the falling away of educators from the industry. They don't feel appreciated. You know, I shared on the show, my daughter, her senior year, she got slapped by a student, a male student. Right? Now this is in my school network where I work. I can't show up like the other parents who show up. I can't come in cussing. I can't come in screaming. I can't come in and say, bring that little dude out here so I can put him up against the wall and let him know that a man don't put his hands on a woman. Bring him out here, right? But we have parents who do that. Come into the school.
Yes, sir.
Kids. We had a very public arrest at one of our schools this year. Right? And so I can't show up like that because I represent a brand. And that brand is not Tony Briscoe.
That's right.
That brand is the Lord Jesus Christ.
That's right.
So I don't get to show up like other parents show up. I got to show up cordial. I got to show up respectful. I'm going to be firm because I can still be firm and do all of those things. We met with a teacher because in high school, she just kept getting tardies to this one class. Right? And I'm like, man, is my daughter being targeted? So we go up there and we inquire. And the teacher was so defensive. He's like, hold up. Oh, I think you got this twisted. We're trying to see what is she doing to be late coming to class. We're not here to ask you why you keep giving this. She was so defensive that it looked like we were speaking a foreign language to her because she was not. She was like, "Oh, y'all here to find out what she been doing to be late." Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, this is what's, and so we corrected it with her. Like, imagine the shift in the respect for educators and teachers. And believe it or not, y'all, this same behavior, it's drifted into the church. Because you've got an unchurched generation. They just like, dude, it's just a building to me.
Yeah.
I saw a dude pull up the other day behind my alley and literally relieve himself on the church on the corner wall.
But there you go. It's just a building, Tone.
If we were cussing as kids, if we walked through a church, our hat came off our head and we remained silent until we got by just to respect that sacred ground.
That's facts.
That's what teaching was. Teachers are still sacred. But you got parents who like to go with, baby, your kid been in school for 3 months. That's a whole quarter. Don't come up screaming about why they failed in this class on report card pickup. You should have been on this a month and a half in the school at the 5-point mark. But teachers are taking on so much. It's really hard for them to adapt. And when a teacher has to leave something that they know they're called to, that means that teacher can spend the rest of their life out of sync. Imagine something that you're called to, but the environment is so toxic that you just do something else. And that gaping hole that said, man, what could I have done? Because I know Brother Dotson that had it rough, 26 years. How was he able to endure? How he able to go in every day? And Monday's usually rough for him. This is probably the first smooth Monday he's had since we've been on this show. I'm just going to tell you. Every Monday, you're like, bro, it was a Monday. Bro, this is the first Monday. I feel like he had a lot of peace today. Thank the Lord for that. Well, he's learned how to mask it better. But whatever the case may be, I want to close with this. Let your teachers know you appreciate them if you're listening. Do something for your teachers. Buy them a donut. Like, I don't know, give them a gift card, something. but we appreciate teachers and we don't want to see them leaving the profession. Corporate recruiters are now recruiting teachers all across the country.
That's true.
Why? Because of the conditions of schools. And two, I don't have to pay somebody else and teach them. I've got a teacher who can come in, learn my platform, and teach everybody in my building how to use this software, how to run this program, how to create these policies, because teachers already got lesson plans, instructional design, content, awareness, and assessments that know how to get it done to make sure this company people know how to follow up. So they're recruiting teachers heavily, starting with $70,000, $80,000, $95,000 out the bat, putting bonus plans together for them. If you meet these goals and these metrics, we'll give you an extra $15,000 at the end of the year, or we'll give you a quarterly bonus. And so teachers are being recruited heavily. Why? Because if you don't value that which is called to pour into our children, somebody else will value them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's when they recruit you. Make sure you come and help me, come back to me. I help you out, get you that plan, and make sure that you're getting paid incrementally like you should be paid, because that's one of the major reasons why we see a lot of people walk away from things that they love. Because they're not getting paid, they're not getting respected, and they're not getting what they deserve, and it's not worth it. It's not worth it. But if they recruit you, holla at me. I got you. I get that right.
I would close, Tony. I would add one other thing though. You all, I did a show. I don't know. It might have been 3 months ago. It's all a blur. But I did a show on the Unteachables, the Uneducables, part 1. I never got back to doing part 2, and I think I need to do that. I was talking about that the other day. One of the major issues that I think also that we have to face here is that we have given our school systems up, right? We really have. Over the last, I'd say 50 years, really, we've given it up. We've allowed people to come in and teach our kids whatever they want to teach them.
That's
right. And
facts.
as parents, we didn't stand up in the communities to say, hey, wait, that don't sound right. Right. So now our kids, and I think I can only say from me being in high school, I hit a teacher, God help us, with a globe, right?
What?
Because he put his hands on me. Because and believe it or not, it was a history class. And I was going to school right across the street from Cabrini Green. That's where my high school was, right? It's one of the roughest kids in the city.
When you said Cabrini, I understood the globe hit now.
and this teacher, I love history, obviously. And I would sit in this class and he wouldn't teach. He quite literally would come into class. The class was a social gathering, almost like a study hall. He would take out his book and he did calligraphy the whole time during class. And I told my mom, I said, I'm not going to sit in this class. And this guy is not teaching anything. Wow. So when I got up to get ready to leave with some friends of mine, he grabbed me because I was the short kid, right? Skinny kid. And he put his hands on me. I told him to get his hands off me. Needless to say, it became physical. And I never went back to his class. I had to take American History 1 and 2 in summer school. But I took that because I realized I cannot sit in a class and not learn. And nobody was doing anything. We gave our schools up to a lot of people, right? Who really, there are some who have the calling to teach, and they're surrounded by people who don't. Yep. And don't really care. It's a job. It's a thing to do. I don't care about that kid. That kid is not my problem, right? And so what happens is when you're caught in a system like that, and you have to come to work every day, and you got to be the load bearer to try to get kids to understand this is important, this is important, this is important. It weighs you down. And eventually it drowns you. If you're not strong enough, it will drown you.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to be issues. And that's why I told you, we're going to have to do that show on uneducables, because then they label your kids as something wrong with them when in really it's something wrong with the teaching that they're getting.
Yeah,
that's I would just add that.
That's why Elder Briscoe, this is where they were going with the teaching, making it so that businesses were the ones that were going to teach them. But they have to be careful, because studies have shown that Machiavellianism attitude and mentality is spilled over into the business industry, because we're missing the bigger picture. You have not addressed the mental problems that you caused by this conditioned stinking thinking. So
from kindergarten to 12th grade, from kindergarten to 12th grade and on.
Stinking thinking.
Yes, that's why I said, Elder Dot said, make sure you hit me up, because you're going to be in a war zone, brother. So I'll make sure you get everything you asked for. Exactly. Gonna. You are.
Yeah, no.
If the business is going to pay you, they got to pay you more than what the government paying you. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think Eddie's so right. I'll close with this. I was at a school and I walk in to do some tech support, and there's a white teacher in there, which I have zero problems with. So, but for this particular room, she had all white women on the wall, 4 of them. Barbara Bush, I can't think of who the other three were. All right. And in my mind, I'm like, the name of this school is Lorraine Hansberry College Prep. You could at least
put Lorraine Hansberry
of Lorraine Hansberry either at the front
or
the back.
Somewhere in there.
And so I took it to the administration. I'm in that class 2 weeks later. I see the same thing. And I said to the administration at the time, I said, the first time I brought this to your attention, it was a teacher problem. Now I'm bringing it to you again. It's an administrative problem. So I'm giving you notice. If this doesn't change within 2 weeks, I'm going over your head. I'm going straight to the top. That teacher resigned.
Wow.
And I don't know if it was related. The fact is, because I was like, you know what? I'm fighting this war wrong. Lord, remove this teacher if she's not for our kids. 2 weeks later, gone. Because we need people in place who want to educate our children and who are going to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
Symbolism is strong. I agree.
Yeah.
And if you are not for them, be gone.
Lorraine Hansberry, who was from Chicago, whose father was come on, man. I could go into history, but I'd have been a little mad too. I'd have came up to that going, hey, where's your Lorraine Hansberry picture? Who?
Right.
Like, for real. You know, like this the principality, Smokey. Hey, family, look, we're gonna get out of here. I know next Monday is the 31st. If I do come on, it's only because I'm trying to get my people who I went to Ghana went on. But if you don't see us, this will be officially our last show for the year. You may see me guesting with Miss Tina. The reason you've missed me, Eddie, on Thursdays is because me and Gary are teaching together he's teaching. I'm backing him up with some administrative.
We're teaching.
I'm backing him up with some administrative, getting the Zoom and all that other stuff going. But that's the reason we've been at church. We've got 3 more classes left that we're conducting on how to study the Bible. I'm excited about just to see the saints excited. I think is the bigger part of what I'm really loving. We've got some young adults in the class who are really enjoying what they're learning.
Yes.
Some of these people have never heard of a concordance. No understanding of the languages of Koine Greek, Aramaic, Chaldean, Hebrew, like what the scriptures were written in, right? Like, so they're really getting some good foundational knowledge. So they're waiting for a part 2. And so what I told them was, you got part 2 on Tuesdays.
Yep.
Afternoon Bible study at our church. You got part 3 on Wednesday night with Bible class. And you've got part 4 on Sunday mornings at 8 o'clock when we have Sunday morning Bible study, which if you go through a cycle of 5 years, you would have gone through the entire Bible in that 5-year cycle for Sunday school. So we're like, we're not doing a part 2. You've got to take what we're teaching. You've got to take that, and you've got to go out and you've got to apply those things. But we're giving them, equipping them with historical facts, historical data, historical links, and just I think for us, it's we get to see the older saints and the younger saints excited and invested in their learning of Scripture beyond just, hey, I'm a Christian, but I don't know anything else. I'm really enjoying watching them grow and watching them put their time together. It's been a blessing.
Hey, I'm gonna tell both of you brothers, look, I will accommodate anybody. If you want to do a show on Tina's Day and on a boys' day, I will accommodate anybody to sit down and have a historical conversation. I don't care if it's biblical. I don't care whatever it is. We can do that. I told Pastor Razor when I was in Chicago, I am more than open because it's a need. It is a need. And we really need to spend time fleshing some of these things out. I get so many chats and videos and questions. I got a question a day about hush puppies all over the place, right? People send me overseas, everywhere. So I am always, and then people tell me, hey man, you always seem to be challenging folks, right? No, I'm just going to try to give you the historical facts based on what evidence, right? Principal evidence. And then you can go from there. You can be whatever you want to believe, but I'm going to give you the fact, right? So if at any time, man, anything you ever want to discuss, we could do that.
Not to correct Elder Briscoe, but the 29th is Sunday, sir. And then the 30th is Monday and the 31st is Tuesday. You said the 31st is Sunday. I'm like, wait a minute.
I thought the 31st was Monday. Okay. That's cool. So the 30th.
29th is Sunday.
Okay.
The 30th is Monday, and the 31st is Tuesday.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Calendar. Thank you, Miss Calendar Lady. I really appreciate you.
I thought something was going wrong. I'm like, I'm having a problem here. My days is mixed up. But
hey, family,
I have to extend that as well. If you guys call, I will do what I can to come.
Cool. Appreciate it. Family, we want to remember the Pratt family in prayer, please. One of our brothers, one of our fellow elders had a heart attack suddenly on Saturday night and passed away. So his wife, they've really been going through. She lost her daughter during COVID to a severe car accident. And so losing him, they got a daughter who's in her freshman year of college as well. So they've really been going through. So please keep the Pratt family in your prayers when you think about them. And anybody else who's also grieving, just remember it's the holiday season is coming up. Some people really do not vibe well. We just want to pray for peace for families during this season. So, Father, in Jesus' name, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for the Phillips family being able to come on and fellowship with us tonight.
Lord. Yes, Lord.
We thank you to my buddy Antoine for the question of today about how do we study and are we learning about our faith and our walk as we draw closer to you and older in age, Lord? Are we still seeking you like the Bereans, Lord, diligently seeking after you, Father? So bless Sister Pratt. Can't imagine what she's going through right now, losing her husband. Pray for those who have husbands and wives who are in the hospital, Lord, and be with our young people, be with our students. We get to see those who have a desire to learn and those who do not, Lord. May we just continue to be lights for them, and that you bless us to be a light. We pray. Yes. Bless the Phillips family. Keep them. Keep their sons, bless their shows, expand their territory according to your riches and your glory.
Yes.
In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Hey, audience, thank y'all for tuning in, fam. We know we kept y'all a little bit tonight. Ooh, a lot bit. It's 9:40. Lord have mercy.
Man.
Thank y'all for hanging out. Miss Tina's had a long night online, her and Eddie. So, man, bless y'all souls. Appreciate y'all. Audience, y'all know how we do and how we leave here. Peace.
Welcome to Message Monday. Christian men, Christian walk, Christian talk with your hosts, Tony Briscoe and Gary Dotson. We discuss faith, marriage, family, parenting, politics, and mental health, world news, and most of all, faith again. Let's go. Welcome to Message Monday.